time to get into Galaxy Property, and we started this season last week, and we are going to be continuing on this season, getting some nuggets from Val the Builder, and she runs a property company for renovations and home improvement. She also does interior design, project management, and property development. So, I mean, with that being said, of course, we should be taking a couple of nuggets from Val the Builder. And of course, across all social media platforms, especially our Facebook page, we are live. So you can also catch up with the conversation online. Good morning, Val.
Good morning, Erica. Thank you for the welcome.
Val, last week we had our first episode into Galaxy Property. Maybe you could just give us a recap before we get into this week's topic, buying a house legally.
Thank you. Before I get into the session, can I just, maybe for those who were not tuned in last week, what is property? Property is anything, you or myself, Erica, has legal title over, and it gives us rights over that property. And then I went on to speak about the common types of property. So we have real estate. We're talking about tangible property on this show, right? So real estate, residential, commercial, industrial, agriculture, land being raw land, can be raw land or developed land. Raw land is undeveloped land, and then developed obviously with a building on it. Those are the types. And then we talked about freehold and non-freehold, because when I left the show, actually I got some viewers who watch me on Facebook phoning in, asking me to just repeat a few things. And because it was introduction, I really hadn't gone deep into it. So freehold land is land that you have title over. You have title deeds over it. You have complete ownership. It has no expiration, no termination period. You can lease it out, and you can also leave it to someone if you pass away. It can be inherited because you have full ownership on it. So, and you can sell it as well. And non-freehold, you can't sell it. It's got termination, expiration. It's in other words, it's called a leasehold estate. So you can only lease it for a certain period, like agriculture, 99 years, or even like a shopping, a building. I'll give you an example. In South Africa, last week, I was hearing news of one of the shops that were closing, a supermarket, and the residents were really they were really upset. Some were upset, and that they were closing down. The reason why they were closing down is that the lease had come to an end, and they were not going to renew the lease, so they had to move to another place. So which meant that that place was not going to have a supermarket of that quality and standards. So that's non-freehold. And then we were talking about sessions, but for today we're going to talk about buying a house legally in Zimbabwe. And remember, I mentioned due diligence, the process of due diligence. So whether you're buying a house or you're buying land, you still need to go through that process. It's very, very important.
When you talk about due diligence, Val, is it due diligence in looking for the house in places, or are we talking about applicable due diligence when it comes to where you buy it, who sells it to you, who certifies the property as legal? Last week I did also use wetlands as one of the things that we then end up hearing, that those houses built on wetlands were demolished. Is that part of the due diligence that one should find out? And also, whilst we are there, Val, who do we find out from?
All right, great. Those are very good questions. Due diligence in itself, diligence means steady, means careful. So due diligence is thorough, investigation. The other word that I love is verification. It's a process of verifying. And we're talking about legal documents here when you want to buy a house. It doesn't matter where you're buying it, northern suburbs or anywhere, high, low density. The process is the same, and even for land. So it requires you to examine legal documents and also the property itself, the condition of the property, because you can be sold something that is not
Condition of property is
the condition
important.
yes, the house may have cracks, the foundation was not done properly, so the house is not fit enough, and so you don't want to, to lose money. So it's a process whereby you need to be careful, take time, right, in doing it. It can take weeks or even months, depending on the complexity of the deal. Because some deals are huge in property.
I must ask, as layman is not the word that I want to use, but because of the lack of a better word, I will use that. As a layman, and I come to you and I say, Val, I'm looking to buy a property, and this is my income bracket. What would you say are the first verification steps? Would you say, Erica, the first thing you need to make sure is you take your ID. You need to make sure that the person who's representing themselves as a municipality officer, this is how you verify, and take us through those steps from the very first one. What do I verify?
All right, great. So, Erica, I would say that you are the seller, right?
Yeah.
I would ask from you sight of your copy of the ID. In fact, no, the original ID, national ID, original title deed. I would like to see that, and then I'll ask for the copies. Then I will take the copies and take them to the deeds office. Right?
As the buyer?
As the buyer. So Val is the buyer. I would then it's a public office, so you're allowed to go there to verify if the documents are correct. So this is your homework and you're doing research. But I would highly recommend that you use a registered estate agent, registered by the Estate Agent Council, because there are real estate agents and there are real estate agents. You know what I mean?
Oh, I get it.
Yes.
I get it. They're real.
Okay, some are bogus. So you need to make sure that they're approved and they're registered, right? Don't just deal with anyone. And also use a lawyer. If for some reason you don't want to use real estate agents. Some people try and avoid them because of the commission. They don't want to pay much.
I meant to get into that as a follow-up question.
Yeah.
So verification is one thing, but that is only if you know what you are verifying. You mentioned that get the original ID, fair and fine. I think that we can all assess. But the second part, you said that they must then give you my title deeds. Do you want us to move this over to another conversation to what do you look for in the title deeds, or do we talk about it now as part of verification? Because it's your first time buying a house. All my title deeds are Erica. Now you're looking in the sign. What do we look for in the title deed document? What is important? What clauses do you look for as a first time buyer?
Okay. Yeah, we're going to look into that later on in the program. We'll actually even bring a professional, to talk about it, a lawyer, or a realtor to actually go into it. But what I would say to you is make sure that verify if the name on the ID is the same as
the one.
that on the title deed and the person you're talking to. Because a lot of people have gone into trouble. Hey, they've been given false documentation. So you need to make sure that it corresponds, it's the same. But I'll always emphasize this, and I'll always continue to give you advice. I recommend that you have someone, a professional, to look at those documents for you on your behalf. Engage a lawyer. It's better to pay someone professional than to lose out financially.
So step-by-step verification of ID, verification of the deeds. What next?
Also, let me give you a tip, which I've been using myself. If you go to well-established development, areas, these old suburbs, built-up suburbs and all, you can ask neighbors. Nowadays, there's neighborhood group chats. So you can ask, they know each other. So they'll be able to tell you that, oh, that's Val's house. It's Valerie Musoni's house.
And they can tell you it's not the mom.
Exactly, exactly. They can really give you hints and tips and you know, to say, Kuti, I know I almost got into trouble at one time when I wanted to buy a piece of land, and the neighbor, I actually thought they were being intrusive, and I was actually annoyed at first, and I was like, mind your own business.
Imagine that, but it was a message.
Yeah, and they were babati, no, tuda kutaura kuti chi, mwana wepapa has brought in so many people, and they were vatori ku court because they atengesa without the mother's knowledge, amaiva ku diaspora. So izvozvo zvakandibatsira, it was a red flag. It helped me.
And Papa Deed's office can't really help you there. No. Title deed. Yeah, I get you.
Angatotora my documents to seizure and all that. So yes, be careful. So in the neighborhood, tendera quietly. You know, do your research. It pays. It takes time, but it pays in the end.
In case you're just joining us, we are talking everything property. This is Galaxy Property, our second episode. Talking here to Val the Builder. And today we're talking about buying a house legally. Now we're just scraping through the first steps of that verification process, the due diligence part. And Val saying ID, make sure there's a title deed. And big tip, talk to the neighbors. Because in any case, I think when it comes to even renting, and just talk to neighbors. Find out if the house is wanted and don't, you know. I hear a lot of these situations. Why don't you just ask people?
Yes.
So after doing that, which is the essential part, I must ask in our remaining 4 minutes for this episode, can one buy a property without a title deed? There seems to be a rush, Val. This is for me at spectator's view. Of course, I'm not qualified to comment on that, but I feel like and they're in a rush to maybe prove to people that they're buying, that they don't ask for simple things like title deeds. Or so should one buy a house as Nakutambi's got a title deed? Are there cases that is okay?
I don't recommend you buying a house without title deeds, right? Or any legal documents for that matter. And don't be rushed into buying a house. You know, it's one of your biggest investments and important investments. Take your time. You know, if it's yours, you will still buy it in the end. You know, what happens is I think peer pressure. But you need to be careful. But there's situations where you can buy a house without title deeds. If it's under a cession. You know, most of these houses, like in high density areas, are under council cession. And so what a cession does, it's an act of transfer that gives you rights to the property, but it falls short of ownership. So you don't own that house. It's still owned by the local authority, by council in this case, right? But for a period, we're not going to wait only 20 years, 30 years, and then you can, later on you can go and have the title process done. And it can also happen with the developer cession. You can buy a land from a developer or land from a developer through a cession. And then any title deed developer because Panama terms and conditions and Panama commitment, but you can buy from a developer as any title deed, which need titles for that process.
Super excited for next week because we are going to talk about the difference between a title deed and a cession, because that's where I think a lot of people are also falling short.
Yes.
Developer cession, what does that mean? Municipal cession, what does that mean for you as the buyer? Is that a good investment? Yeah. So next week is going to be super exciting. In case you missed out on this week's episode, you can catch up with it on our Facebook platform. We are having property discussions with Val the Builder, and today we touched on verification processes when you are buying a house legally. Next week we will be touching on what is a cession, the difference between a cession and a title deed, which I think that's where the top soup of the story is.
Yes.
Because 20 years and not a lifetime investment. For today, thank you so much, Val. How do we catch up with you?
You can contact me on my WhatsApp number, 0772 273 888. That is 888 at the end. Through my Gmail email, valmusoni@gmail.com or Valerie@ValerieMD.